Okay, so I'm here today with Coach Eric for a very important reason. Do you know why? Because I want you to win the point. And a lot of times when you can win the point, it's going to be on closing shots like the overhead. And it's one of the #1 shots that I see recreational players and beginners and even advanced players miss. So we want to help you out with that closing shot so you can come to the net and know with confidence that you can end that shot. So Eric's with me today, or in the point. And he is an expert on the overhead, because I have a couple of theories, but I think he's going to have a few more. And we're going to have like this fun thing where he's going to correct me every time that I'm teaching, and he's going to throw in the extra details. So if you've seen my serving video, then you want to start with that, because it's going to give you the basics of what you're going to want to do with this whole motion. Very much similar. You're going to have the same grip, all these same ideas of keeping your racket on edge, where to keep your arm. So if you have not seen that, please go watch that, because you need those ideals for that. Overhead is very much an abbreviated serve. It's a serve where it's just coming to you instead of you throwing it up, right?
Correct, yeah.
So what's the first most important thing to start out with the overhead? Or should I go first and you'll correct me?
You can go first, I'll correct you, or I can, either way.
Okay, so first thing you want to do when you see the overhead come, you see the ball come up, is turn your shoulders. Is that right?
Yeah, so what you're seeing with her there is you're noticing how she's getting her racket up, elbow up, essentially in a, almost like a quarter serving motion, okay? So left arm up, perfect.
Left arm up, perfect. Now, when I was a kid, I was taught to point at the ball, and that kind of helps you keep track of the ball, because you notice one of the hardest things to do, especially if it's a high lob, is really time that ball. So if you'd like and if it helps you, you can go ahead and point that finger. Not completely necessary. Make sure that elbow is up. You don't want it down here. You want it up, and you want to make sure your shoulders are turned. So that's your first start on the overhead. Second thing, let's see if I get this right. Just hit it.
Well, the biggest difference between the overhead and the serve.
That's not right? No?
You know, that's going to be an important part. Is going to be your footwork, right? So getting in position for the ball, just like if you're serving, probably the worst thing you can do on a toss is to hit the ball behind you. So on the overhead, you never want the ball to really get behind you. So your first thing, once you split and you turn, is to really move your feet to go back and not let the ball be behind you. You always want it in front of you if you can control that.
Exactly. He's right. Now I have more to add to that. There's different kind of footwork that you can use on an overhead. So if it's just a ball that's not moving very quickly, what you're going to want to do is you can just use your adjustment steps. So you move your feet back and forth, your arm stays up, the shoulders always stay turned. But for example, someone might hit an offensive lob that's moving a lot faster. So you're going to have to move fast too. So that's when you're going to incorporate a crossover step so you can move quicker. So that way you can cover that court a lot quicker. So you're coming in from the net like this, you'll see the overhead, and then you cross over so you can cover a lot of ground really quickly. And in those moments, sometimes that ball might be behind you. So how do we handle a ball that is behind us?
Yeah. So what she did really well right there, she took a big crossover step with that front foot to take up space. And then the next thing is going to be the scissor kick. Tough thing to teach. I'd say this is one of the hardest things on an overhead, where you're going to be going off of your back foot, pushing, turning in the air. Notice as I'm turning in the air, I'm getting the ball in front of me. Okay, so she does this really well. And that scissor kick motion will allow you to not open up your shoulders incorrectly and keep the ball in front of you while you make contact.
Exactly. So how do we teach that scissor kick again? Maybe you can go sideways so we can see it even more clearly.
So the scissor kick, the biggest key is getting a push off your back leg. I'm a righty, so it's going to be my right foot. Lefty is going to be your left foot. So once you push off that right foot, essentially you're pushing and you're spinning, which is where you kind of get to that scissor kick motion, and then your legs kick up into the air to put the ball in front of you. So I'm going to do it in a faster motion. Push, kick. Okay, so I'm pushing off the right, kicking with the left leg back.
Okay, so then on my scissor kick, I ended up just kicking my right foot. Is that wrong, because you could open up quicker?
Yeah, I mean, you're kicking both feet, but if you see her when she does it, she's pushing off the right and kicking that left foot back to get that space in that air. At the end, yes, your right foot does kick up on the landing.
Because this ball is behind you, so just imagine that in order to do that, you're going to have to
left kick.
You're actually moving backward as you hit the shot, because the ball, you're catching up to the ball. essentially.
Yeah, very athletic move, takes good timing, a lot of practice. So if you're out there with a coach or ball machine, easy way to do it is you can start close to the net, have the ball go over your head. You work on the cross step, the push, and the kick till you get your timing on the shot.
Exactly. So now we've set ourselves up, we've gotten ourselves to the shot, whether you're doing a scissor kick, whether you're crossing over, or whether you're just using your shuffle step. And so now we're ready to hit the ball. What do you think are the key most important moment here? Probably one of the biggest beginners would make.
Definitely watching the ball, that's on every shot. But on an overhead, very similar to if you were to have a high toss on your serve, the ball's dropping fast, which makes it tough to time. So keeping your left arm up, like she said, you can point at the ball with your hand, your finger, whichever way you want to do it. You want to keep that ball above your left hand, because then the most important thing when you hit is going to be your wrist snap. And you can't snap your wrist if you hit the ball too low. So
yes,
point of contact, number one, looking at the ball, pointing at the ball, snapping your wrist.
And then keeping your shoulders closed. So whenever I see someone miss an overhead, even sometimes in the pros, for me the biggest thing that happens is that the shoulders open. So you start to lose control from that. You're going to want to keep that shoulder closed all the way through the overhead. It's very similar on a serve too. And when you get there, you keep that closed and you follow all the way through. So in order to make your overhead, the easiest thing to do is just keep those shoulders closed. I promise you, you will probably eliminate 75%, 95% almost of those overheads that you miss.
Yeah, she's completely correct. One thing I would always tell juniors when they get tight and they do the thing that she's talking about and they open up is to imagine that you're swinging over your left hand. And that concept, that visual concept will give you, you're never really going to hit your left hand, but it'll force you not to open too early under pressure.
Mm-hmm. And also the mentality behind the overhead too. People get this overhead, they're like, I've got to hit a winner. You usually don't have to hit a winner. You can even aim straight to the middle of the court and your opponent's going to be guessing left or right. They might make a choice, run left or right. Sometimes hitting through the middle of the court is the easiest thing to do. So just remember, hit the best shot you can, put your ball in, and get ready for the next shot. It may not come back. If it does, you'll be ready for it.
I'm going to start off kind of nice and short. Notice how she's getting nice footwork into it. That left arm's up, not opening up. Great wrist snap, great positioning. And then as you get used to that, we're going to progress into a tougher overhead. So the next ball, I'm going to put it up a little higher. She's got that sun right in her face today, not making it easy. Doing a great job using her left arm to block the sun.
You can also note how I keep my feet moving, so in case the ball moves.
Great adjustment steps. And the higher it is, she keeps her feet alive, right? So the higher the ball goes, never gets flat-footed. Always on the toes, adjusting. And the last one that we're going to go with is that scissor kick that we talked about. So I'm going to put it over her head and watch how she pushes. Great job. So always pushing off that right foot, kicking back with that left. Oh, that was too easy. She's too tall. There we go.
I'm a giant. It's got to be harder.
I'm going to make it really tough on her here. So the bouncing overhead, this will be one of the tougher ones. Ball's high up in the air. She's moving way back, moving into it, always having that ball in front of her when she hits it. Give her a really tough one. Throw this ball up high. Waiting on the toes. And she never gets those feet flat, and that's the biggest key to it. But, she's got her routine to it. All the technicals are correct. Good footwork. Mini scissor kick into that one. Always adjusting. Perfect. Good job.